The philosopher Sam Keen a few years ago had a marvelous documentary and a book called The Faces of the Enemy. And in there he said, the way that you can send young people out to war and compel them to kill each other is by depriving them of any knowledge that the enemy, the other, is actually human. Now, if that's true, and he did a great deal of research on this, would the converse be true, that we are much less likely to go to war and have struggles the more we know about other people, especially the depths of their hearts and souls, if we know their sacred texts, if we know their art and their music and so on?
Well, there are two, I agree with Sam Keen's premise, but I would venture that there are two very different ways of knowing about others. One is what you just suggested about knowing their cultures and their art and their religions and so forth. The other way of knowing about others, and I think this might be classified as the spiritual approach, is to know yourself very completely. Because when you know yourself, and this is basically what happens in contemplative practice, and I'm speaking here from a Buddhist framework, but you understand the process of suffering, and that the process of suffering it rests on wanting things to be different from what they actually are. And so it seeks you to try to change your world in some way so that you aren't uncomfortable. And what you learn in contemplative practice is to let go of that impulse, to accept things more and more deeply. And you see how that struggle is what causes everybody to act the way they are. So by knowing yourself completely, you come to know everybody else, and you come to know exactly why everybody else struggles with life. Everybody's trying to make the world outside what they want it to be, and this is what causes suffering.
Cynthia, what do you think? Is our far-ranging acquaintance now with each other's sacred texts giving us more hope for the future?
Well, I think we're moving along, but we've got another hurdle to get over. And that really the motto of at least the liberal echelon of our world is coexist. I think we have to move to the next step, which is coalesce, which is to form a higher evolutionary unit in which the parts are differentiated. And I think that where we have to go, we're certainly making a step through the becoming familiar from the outside with each other's traditions. But what really is called upon, and I think is exactly what Kin says, we have to become familiar from the inside and realize that it's all the same eye of the needle that human beings are having to go through, and that the great traditions of literature encamp around, do you get through it or don't you? On one side just lies drama and tragedy. On the other side is enlightenment and transformation. So we're moving, but we certainly aren't there yet.